Izuku looked at the sight before him in disbelief. This? He had been taking an early morning jog, how he managed to free himself from the dog pile of kids on top of him without waking them even he didn't know, and found it had been raining. Still, no pain to gain, so he put on a raincoat and some boots and started running. However, during the middle of his jog through the park, he found something he really should have been expecting by now. In front of him was a small child, about 6, with black hair, a pair of shorts, a white shirt, and a hat with 2 spikes on it collapsed in a bush. Immediately Izuku looked around, wondering if the boy's parents were anywhere around. Of course, there was no one around. After making sure he wasn't kidnapping a child, he immediately scooped him up and ran towards his house. He's in bad shape, he's shivering a lot. How long was he out in that rain? And he looks like he hasn't eaten in a while too. Izuku ran as fast as he could, he needed to get home so he could help this kid. The next day, Kota opened his eyes slowly, blinking at the light, flooding his eyes. Ow! My body hurts. He groaned. His body was sore and moving even just a little was a strain on his little body. He looked around to the best of his ability and saw that he was in a bed. He was covered by blankets and there was an IV drip attached to his arm. Where am I? I passed out in the park. Did someone bring me to the hospital? This doesn't look like a hospital. Kota was confused and tired. So very tired. He closed his eyes, fading in and out of consciousness until eventually he gave in and passed out. There was nothing. Kota stood in a black void. The only things along with him were 2 body bags. Kota stared at the bags. His body frozen by the many emotions running through him. Anger. Sadness. Fear. Betrayal. He just stared at them for a while until his body moved forward. But he wasn't controlling it. Dread grew inside of him as he moved closer to the bags. No. Stop. Stop moving. Kota's body grabbed the zippers of the body bags and started opening them. Stop. Kota gasped and jolted upwards, only to be met with pain. Ah. Kota fell back down onto the bed and started freaking out, moving around despite the pain, hyperventilating all the while. Mama. Papa. Kota cried, tears following down his face. Then, Blue Goo suddenly came from seemingly nowhere and moved on top of him, retaining his body and keeping him from moving. Sanson's head formed right in front of Kota's face. Beef. After a while, Kota started breathing normally again. Where am I? Who are you? Kota asked, still panicking a little. Sanson. Sanson stated her name. Sanson? Is that your name? Kota asked. Sanson nodded. Okay. Where am I? Kota repeated. Wong, Sanson answered. Wong? Where's Wong? Kota asked, confused by Sanson's way of talking. Where, Sanson said. Where? Where what? Kota was getting a little frustrated at the lack of proper communication going on. She was also still wrapped around his body. Part of him wanted to tell her to get off, but she also, her cool slime did feel kinda nice on his sore fevered body. However, before things could go any further, the door opened and Izuku walked in with Eri and Kyoku behind him. You're awake, Izuku said in a relieved tone. I was worried you might not wake up. You were in really bad condition when I found you. Where am I? Kota asked impatiently. Annoyed at having to ask so many times, as well as slightly fearful due to waking up in an unknown place. I'm sorry, you must be confused. Izuku apologized. I'm Izuku Midoriya. The girls you see are my, daughters. Kind of. Kota gave him a skeptical look. He may be very young, but even he knew that Izuku was way too young to have kids, especially this many. Lair. Kyoku gave Kota a vicious death glare. Daddy isn't a lair. It's okay, Kyoku, I would be skeptical if I was in his position too. Izuku tried to calm her, before addressing Kota. I know it's hard to believe, but there's been some special circumstances that lead to this. Kota still gave him a distrustful look for a few moments, before looking at Sanson. Oh, right. Sorry about her. I saw you were fussing in your sleep and the doctor said that you shouldn't move around too much, so I told her to stay here and keep you from moving if you started crashing. Izuku explained. Sanson, you can get off now. Good work. Sanson nodded and unwrapped herself from Kota's body, and oozed over to Izuku, slithering up his body and winding around his neck like a scarf. I'd would wooed. Sanson rubbed her face against Izuku's cheek. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Izuku praised her while petting her head. And you're speaking so well today too. You just need to learn to not use the W so much. Kota stared at the four of them for a few seconds, before deciding that now was the time to leave. He pushed himself up and immediately remembered the pain. Ah. Didn't you hear him? You can't move, dummy. Kyoku scolded him. Kyoku. What have I said about name-calling? Izuku said sternly. I only called him a dummy. Kyoku defended. I could have called him a dash. One more word and that's 10 points off, Izuku warned her. Kyoku promptly closed her mouth. Izuku turned back to Kota. But she is right. I told you not to move or you'll just get even sicker. You can't tell me what to do, Kota said defiantly, still glaring at Izuku while trying to move out of the bed. Sanson, sorry to ask you to do this again, but can you keep him from moving? Izuku asked remorsefully. No problem. Sanson gave him a thumbs up. The good girl then quickly moved over Kota, making several arms and moving Kota back onto the center of the bed, putting the covers back over him and keeping him from moving in one fell swoop. Hey! Kota protested. Let go. This is kidnapping. It's not really. Izuku sighed. While you were asleep, I looked around to see if anyone was looking for you. He had actually been looking to see if his parents were looking for him, but knowing his situation it would probably be best not to say that. I found your info online. Kota Izumi, age 6. You ran away from home a while ago and your guardians have been looking for you. Izuku explained. I got in contact with the Pussycats and they said they would be here to pick you in a few days, and until then you'll be staying here. No. I don't want to go back. Let me go. Let me go. Kota tired, but he couldn't even really struggle against Sanson's goo. Izuku looked at Eri and Kyoku. Could you two go play with your siblings? But Kyoku and Eri didn't like leaving Izuku's side. As such, they were basically attached to Izuku's side. Please. Izuku insisted, giving them both a begging look. Izuku didn't ask them for much beyond behaving themselves. So all the kids felt inclined to do as he said whenever he asked something. Kyoku and Eri especially. After some hesitation, the two nodded and left the room. Izuku walked towards Kota, stopping once he reached a close, but still respectful distance. He didn't want to make the poor boy any more uncomfortable than he was already. If you promise not to keep struggling, then I'll tell Sanson to get off of you, Izuku told him. I don't want to have to restrain you like this, but I also don't want you to hurt yourself. Just let me go. Kota continued to struggle with no progress. Izuku waited patiently sitting on his chair a few feet away. I feel bad for having Sanson stay here. I know she likes moving around after all. Hopefully, he tires himself out soon. An hour later. As it turns out, Kota was not a boy who was easily discouraged. As he continued trying to struggle for the next hour. And given the fact that his body wasn't actually moving, he wasn't actually using much energy, so it took him a while to tucker himself out. In the meantime, in order to entertain Sanson, Izuku had set up a table between them and the two of them started playing tic-tac-toe, Sanson making a hand and stretching it over to play. So I guess this confirms that she doesn't have to make a head to see. Izuku thought as he made another X. So does that just mean she can see using her entire body? I'll have to ask her later. I won. Sanson cheered, using her arm to show her excitement. Izuku was letting her win some of these, of course. He loved seeing her get excited. As he got ready to start a new game, Kota spoke. Fine. I give up. Just get her off of me. Kota sighed in defeat. Did he stop moving? Izuku asked Sanson, who in response turned her hand into a head and nodded. All right. You can go play with the others now. Izuku said. Sanson smiled and untangled herself from Kota before bouncing out of the room. No bouncing in the house. You'll break something. Izuku called after her. After a few moments, Izuku sighed and looked back at Kota, who was glaring at him. Are you okay? Izuku asked him kindly. I'm sorry that I have to keep you here, but you could get seriously hurt otherwise. I'm fine. Kota insisted. Achoo. Immediately Izuku gained a concerned expression, and he put his head on Kota's forehead. A fever, just as I thought, Izuku said. Kota was about to tell him to get off, when suddenly, he got a case of déjà vu. The way Izuku held his hand on his head, and the look on his face, and even the words he was saying reminded him off. Izuku took his hand off him and walked to the door. I have to go make lunch. I'll make you some soup and get you some medicine. I don't need dash. Grrrr. Kota's face went red with embarrassment, as his stomach protested what his mouth was saying. In truth, Kota was more than hungry. He was starving. But he also really didn't want to take anything from this Izuku guy. However, the pain in his stomach reminded him of what little choice he had in the matter. TCH, fine. Kota said begrudgingly. Izuku gave a soft smile. At least I don't have to try and force him to eat. Hey. Could you come here please? Izuku called out to the living room. K? Kota wondered who this K person was. After a few moments, the snake-haired girl ran into the room. Yes, Dad? Kay asked, a big smile on her face. When did she start calling me that? Izuku shook his head. Could you watch Kota while I prepare food for everyone? Okay. Can I have something with eggs in it? Kay asked, her snakes hissing with excitement. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Izuku said. It's okay. The longer I wait for eggs, then the yummier they are when I have them. Kay said, repeating something Izuku once told her. Izuku smiled back at her, before petting the snakes on her head a little. That's right. Thank you. No problem. I'm a rock-solid pick. Kay giggled. Moving on to rock puns, at least you're adding some variety. Izuku tried to cringe at the terrible puns to come. With that Izuku left for the kitchen, and Kay hopped on Izuku's chair. Hi. My name's Kasuki. Kasuki Midoriya. But you can call me Kay. Kay introduced herself. What's your name? Kota was caught off guard by both her attitude and appearance, and so all he said was, you okay? Snake got your tongue? Kay asked him jokingly, her snakes cackling in delight. Are those alive? Kota asked. He'd never seen a quirk that gave someone living snake hair. It was cool, but also kind of worrisome. Kind of. Kay shrugged. She moved a finger up to her hair and started petting the snakes. It's like they're part of me, but also not. Izuku says it's like having multiple personalities, but I don't know what that means, and when he tried to explain it I got confused. That didn't really answer Kota's question and only left the boy more confused. Anyway, you never said what your name is. Kay reminded him. It's Kota. Kota Izumi. Kota introduced himself. Cool, what's your quirk? Kay asked him. Mine turns people to stone when they look at my eyes. That's dangerous. Kota thought until he remembered he can't see her eyes through the visor she's wearing. Kay frowned a bit at his initial panic, but quickly went back to her default happy state. Don't worry. I won't turn you to stone. This visor stops my quirk, stone cold. My control over my quirk it, Rocky, and I kept accidentally using it on people by Snake. Stop. Kota groaned. Please stop. Your jokes are terrible. Ah, not another one, Kay complained. One day, I'll find someone who likes my puns. I doubt it. Kota deadpanned. Kay perked back up again. So what's your quirk? Why so you can make more bad jokes? Kota asked her rudely. No. So I can make more awesome jokes. Kay corrected him. I'm definitely not telling you my quirk, Kota responded. Kay pouted for a moment before she got an idea. Okay. Let's play a game. A game? Kota repeated skeptically. You tell me your favorite food and I'll see if I can guess your quirk. Kay said. What does food have to do with quirks? Kota asked. Lots. Izuku says that quirks can make someone really like a food or really not like a food. Kay explained. Like how I love eggs because of my snakes, and how Fu loves meat because he's a zombie and Eri loves apples because she's part unicorn. Unicorns aren't real. Kota pointed out. Yes, they are. Eri has a horn, so that means she's part unicorn. Kay responded. Lots of real animals have horns. Maybe she's part bull or something. Kota said. But Eri only has one horn. And unicorns are the only animals that have one horn. So Eri's part unicorn. Kay crossed her arms and smiled proudly at her foolproof argument. Kota tried to come up with a rebuttal, but he realized he didn't know any animals with only one horn. There are other animals with one horn. Do you know any? Kay smirked smugly. No. Kota looked away from her. Embarrassed and refusing to admit defeat. Then I win. Kay stood up proudly in the chair. Now tell me your favorite food. TCH. Sushi. Kota answered hesitantly. Okay, sushi. Kay concentrated on trying to figure out his quirk. Sushi's made of fish, do you have a shark quirk? No, Kota responded. How about a whale quirk? Kay asked. Do I look like a whale? Kota gave her an "Are you serious" look. Is that a no? Kay asked. No. Kota answered. How about sometime later? What about dash? It's water. Kota shouted in frustration. My quirk lets me shoot out and control water. Oh. Kay pouted in frustration. I focus too much on animals. I didn't even know that many animals ate fish, Kota admitted. I like animals. I want to take care of them when I get older. Kay said enthusiastically. What do you want to do when you get older? Why do you care so much? Kota asked her in return. Why do you keep asking me all these dumb questions? I don't know. I guess I want to know more about you, Kei admitted. I don't know anyone else other than my new family. And all the people besides my new family are really mean. But you're kind of nice. There were a lot of things in what she just said that left him confused. Mostly, the last thing she said. You think I'm nice? Yeah. Most people call me ugly when they see me. Or scary. Or a lot of other bad things. And when they find out what my quirk is, they call me a monster. Kei said without losing even a hint of her cheeriness. But you didn't call me any bad things. So you've been nice to me. That's not being nice, all those other guys are just jerks. Kota pointed out. He may not be the nicest person around, but even he knew it was rude, to say the least, to call someone a monster. How could this girl say all that with a smile on her face? Izuku says that too. He says I should ignore them, because they don't know what they're talking about. Kei repeated what Izuku said. Well, he's right. Kota didn't think that Kei was particularly pretty or easy to look at, and he'd be lying if he said he wanted her and her snakes to get much closer to him. But judging someone because of their quirk was dumb in his opinion. Quirks are dumb, Kota muttered. Before Kei could respond to that, Izuku came back into the room. Food's done. Since I was making soup for Kota, I decided to make some for everyone else too. Izuku explained. Okay. Kei hopped off the chair and ran to the door, before looking up at Izuku. Is Kota gonna eat with us? Well, he can't move too much, so I don't think he can make it to the table, Izuku said. That irritated Kota. It's not like he wanted to eat with everyone, but he didn't like someone saying what he could and couldn't do. I can get to the table. Kota protested. He tried to move again only for pain to shoot through his body, stopping him completely. Don't move, Izuku told him. If you want to eat with everyone, I can figure something out. Izuku made his way over to Kota and carefully he picked up the small child and took him into his arms. Kota wanted to object to being handled by Izuku, but something about the way Izuku held him was pleasantly familiar. It was warm and comfortable. Disarming in a way Kota couldn't put his finger on. He only snapped back to reality when Izuku set him down in his chair. What? Kota looked around and saw all the other kids staring at him. And there were more kids than Kota had been expecting. Not including Izuku, there were 6 in total. He's rather plain looking. Kiba inspected him. I don't think he's plain, I think we just look weird. Fu deadpanned. Kyoku pouted and looked away from Kota. Her disdain for him was very evident. Guys, you should introduce yourselves first, Izuku told them. My apologies, caretaker, I forgot my manners. Kiba apologized, before standing up in the chair. My name is Kiba Midoriya. Proud member of the Midoriya clan and the immortal destined ruler of mankind. Kota gave her the most confused look he'd given anyone in his life. What? She's a weirdo, she says stuff like that, but it doesn't really mean anything, Fu explained. Hey! Kiba shouted in outrage. My name is Fu Midoriya. Fu gave a simple introduction. Sansan Muia. Sansan tried to introduce herself, confusing Kota even more. Her name is Sansan Midoriya. She has a hard time speaking because she's made of slime. Kei explained with a smile. You already know this, but my name's Kasuki Midoriya. There was a short pause, as it took a moment for the less eager members of the family to speak up. I am Eri Midoriya, Eri said just loud enough for them to hear. It's nice to meet you. I'm Kyoku Midoriya. Kyoku curtly introduced herself. Izuku gave Kyoku a concerned look for a moment, before moving on. Okay, everyone, this is Kota. As you know, he'll be staying with us for a few days until his guardians come back to get him. Guardians? Kiba asked. Does he have bodyguards? And no, I mean his legal guardians, Izuku explained. A legal guardian is someone who watches over you and is in charge of your well-being. I'm considered the legal guardian for all of you. So are his parents coming? Kei asked. No, Kota responded almost immediately. He glared at the ground fiercely. No, they're not. Let's not talk about Kota parents, Izuku said nervously. They're a sore topic. It's not like our parents were nice to either. Did they abandon him too? Kyoku said bitterly. Kota froze completely. Kyoku. Izuku picked her up. We are having a talk, young lady. The rest of you can eat. I'll be back in a moment. Please, behave yourselves. With that, Izuku took Kyoku and left. Sorry about her. Fu apologized. She doesn't dash. What did she mean? Kota asked all of a sudden. What? Fu asked. She asked if my parents abandoned me too, Kota repeated Kyoku's words. What did she mean? Oh, well, most of our parents didn't want us after our quirks came, Fu explained. So they threw us out. Threw you out? But I thought Izuku was your dad? Kota was really confused. Caretaker found us and decided to take care of us. We are not related by blood, but he adopted us and serves as our father. Kiba explains. Adopted? Kota asked, not knowing what that word meant. You don't know what adopted means? Kei asked, reckoning a head shake from Kota. Well, if a mommy and daddy don't want their child, someone else can take them and become their new mommy or daddy, or both. Wait, moms and dads can leave their kids? Kota asked. While this was common sense to most, this was news to Kota. As far as he was concerned, parents had kids and they took care of them until either the kid got older or the parents died. Hearing that parents could just leave their kids bewildered him. He couldn't imagine his parents just leaving him. But they did? Kota thought. They choose their stupid hero jobs over me. They abandoned me. Are you okay, Kota? Kei asked him with concern in her voice. Huh? Kota was snapped out of his thoughts. He felt something wet on his face, and after bringing his hand up to his cheek, he realized he had been crying. His face turned red from embarrassment and he quickly tried to save face. I'm fine. Let's just eat already. Kota quickly tried to go for his food, but he moved a bit too fast. Ow. The other kids shot Kota some more concerned looks, but eventually moved on and started eating.